5 o'clock hour here on the Burns Gambo show, and as promised, joining us today of all days, when the Diamondbacks officially found out their season was over, the managing general partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Ken Kendrick, kind enough to join us here on Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Ken, I wish it was under much better circumstances, but we do appreciate you coming on today. I'd ask you how you're doing, but I have a pretty good guess how you're doing right now.
Well, you know, that old line that we all have heard, there is no crying in baseball, I'm not so sure. Today, if you're a Diamondback person, and obviously I am one, today may be one of those rare occasions where you would share a tear or two because, frankly, we had a postseason team that just didn't quite get there. And, of course, that's tough to be able to, stomach at the moment for me.
Yeah. These last 2 hours I've been in a state of depression because you know how much me and even Burnsy, we both loved this baseball team, and last year was such a magical ride. Let me ask you, the team won 89 baseball games. They were 5 wins better than they were last year. Attendance was way up. Fans came out to support this team in droves. What is your overall thought on how the season went?
Yeah, great question. I think the first thing to comment on about this season is the fans. I have been around the Diamondbacks from the very beginning, and we've had some incredible support over the years. But put this year in perspective, it is the largest attended season in about 15 years. And, that is really heartwarming for me, and I'm absolutely touched by the support we've had. I mean, we had a great season last year. Our expectations were high. People came out and supported us through thick and thin. And my biggest takeaway from the whole season is a thank you to an incredible fan base. That having been said, on the field, like always, you analyze the performance, and this is one of those teams where there were some incredibly outstanding results and some results less so. And, that means you've got work to do. And now, starting tomorrow, the work will begin.
We had you on last year, and after the World Series run, the amazing World Series run, and you said that, your philosophy always was you're going to put every penny back into the team. If the team makes money, you're going to put a lot of money back in. True to your word, highest payroll in the history of the Arizona Diamondbacks, $140+ million. I'm not sure what the final number was, but it was the highest by far.
Well, I am, and you're a little bit, not a little bit, you're substantially. Okay. Being the guy who ultimately, has to figure out how to pay the bills, our payroll was
175. Yeah, 175. I'm sorry, I had the wrong number. 175, highest by far that you've ever had. So I'll ask you, when you don't make the playoffs and you don't have postseason games and postseason revenue coming in and full games for the wild card round and the division round, the World Series, is the payroll sustainable to where it was this year?
It's a great another good question. And, here's the good news. I've already commented on the fans, and the attendance year to year was up about 20%, and the overall revenue with the money that was spent while people were there, the tickets they bought, all of the food and beverage and other things, our overall revenue from the fan side of the business was up dramatically this year over a year ago. So last year we had whatever the regular season numbers were, but we had the extra money from the playoffs. This year we have substantial additional money from the regular season, thanks to our great fans. So are we going to be in a position to financially compete yet again next year? I think the answer is basically yes, we are.
Is that reflective in a?
I don't want to define a number because it's not the right time to define a number. Those are the kinds of things that come out of the meetings that we'll be having very soon with Mike Hazen and his group, and looking at those people on the roster that may not be returning, and there are some of them. And, analyze kind of the baseline of what we're going to go forward with in terms of who comes back, and then leave ourselves in a position to invest in additional ball players next year.
Yeah, and that's cool. I wasn't going to ask for a number. Was it going to be more of a
I didn't
maintenance
suggest
of the?
where.
Yeah,
I'm just explaining where
course.
where the process is. What, about an hour or so after?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know this wound is still very fresh here, obviously.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it put the picture together of the team and all of those who were surrounding it. We had airplanes sitting on tarmacs. We had luggage pack. I mean, sad for all of us that we didn't, and our fans in particular, that we didn't get to make the trip to where we would have been Milwaukee, where we started a year ago, and that worked out really well then. And we were all hopeful that we would do that, and unfortunately, we're not.
At the very least, Ken Kendrick joining us here on the Burns and Gambo show. At the very least, would you expect to be able to at least maintain the level that you achieved with your payroll this year? At least maintain that?
Well, I think what we want to do, and we always do this, we sit down and we look at what happened, what good happened, what not so good happened, what we spent to make it happen. We look at the revenues. I know what they, generally are going to be, and from that we'll build a model that, I would tell you that, and I don't want to. You never want to get ahead of yourself in this. I said, I think you all may remember in the spring, I would be disappointed this year if we didn't get into the postseason, and I am disappointed. A year ago, I was thrilled we did get in. Well, I think that we have a core of players that will be returning that will leave us in a position with some guys leaving and some new guys coming that will allow us to be very, very competitive yet again next season. And it won't be inexpensive to do that.
When you look at what went down the last 24 to 48 hours or even the last week, are you displeased with the doubleheader today and kind of the awkward position that puts you in organizationally?
It's a good question. I predicted a week ago, when this, I believe, debacle at multiple levels was occurring, to have the season end with two games yet to be played on a Monday, the day before the playoffs start, was ill-advised. I'm disappointed that MLB did not take a more aggressive posture to insist on those games being played earlier. You can say, oh, well, hindsight. No, I had early on, those teams didn't have a game scheduled last Monday. They played, they were to play 3 games, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They played the game on Tuesday. They could have played either 2 games on last Monday or 2 games on last Tuesday, and then not been involved in the middle of getting canceled and scheduling games to be played after the season. That decision would have changed how the week would have unfolded for a lot of teams, even those guys. I mean, I think they are both, even though congrats to the Braves and the Mets for getting in, but they're both very disadvantaged. They're literally traveling tonight to play tomorrow in L.A. Or San Diego, rather, and in Milwaukee, having played 2 games today, having used, their, in some case, top pitchers, and burned out their bullpens. They're going to go play in a postseason where you should be able to have your best players ready to go, and that could have been, whether it's us playing or them playing. I'm disappointed that Major League Baseball didn't take a more active role in making sure that we didn't have what occurred today.
I'm going to preface this by saying I think that both Mike Hazen and Torey Lovello have done a terrific job in getting this franchise to where they are right now. But a lot of people do want to play the blame game, so I'm going to ask you to evaluate the job of your general manager and your manager this season. You had a 7-game lead over the Mets 1 month ago. 1 month ago, you were up 7 on the Mets, and it took a little bit of a collapse to not get in the playoffs. So to you, what went wrong? And just give me your evaluation of your manager and GM.
Obviously, we could have, and I would say should have been in, notwithstanding any of the story I just gave over the last week. The Mets were playing great baseball. The Braves were playing great baseball. When we were playing pretty good baseball, and then we hit a little slide here at the end. And what our fans tend to do, and I tend to do it, we all do, you do it. You look at every game and say would have, could have, should have. We definitely go back. The game that sticks out the most to me is Sunday a week ago in Cleveland when in Milwaukee, we're up 8-0 and we lose the ball game. You should never lose one of those games. And had we won that game, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So you can pick that out. Well, in a 162 game schedule, there are going to be occasions where the manager doesn't make the smart move and the team loses. There are occasions where we, other things go wrong strategically. There are games when, you probably are aware we're the number one hitting team in baseball.
Yes, you are.
Okay?
Yep.
Number one hitting team in all of baseball. And we had a game Saturday where we pitched against essentially a minor leaguer going against us, and we didn't essentially score. I think we didn't score. Maybe I don't remember.
No,
exactly.
He got shut out 5-0. They scored 5 in the ninth.
Yeah, and okay. Do you blame the players who are the number one hitting team in the league for that particular loss? So, what happens when you win? You have some good fortune go your way, as well as you have talent to get you to a point. And when you don't win, you have some things you can look at. But for any of us, at least for me, to say our manager did a poor job this season or our general manager did a poor job this season, I wouldn't be the one to say that. Now, going forward, I can break the team into categories. Now, we had the number one hitting team in baseball. We had the number one fielding team in baseball. We had the 27th team in pitching. That might be an area we need to address.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about next. A lot of the moves that Mike made really worked out. The Suarez trade, he ended up having a great year, even with a slow start. Jock Petersen was terrific. Randall Grichuk really contributed. The trade for A.J. Puck worked out tremendous. But signing Jordan Montgomery and Erod, I'll stick with Montgomery because Erod was hurt for a lot of the year, and we didn't get to see him in a full season. But Jordan Montgomery was $25 million, and he pitched to an ERA well over 6 and got demoted to the bullpen. How disappointed are you in that signing?
Let me say it the best way I can say it. If anyone wants to blame anyone for Jordan Montgomery being a Diamondback, you're talking to the guy that should be blamed. Because I brought it to their attention. I pushed for it. They agreed to it. It wasn't in our game plan. When he was signed right at the end of spring training. And looking back, in hindsight, a horrible decision, to have invested that money in a guy that performed as poorly as he did. It's our biggest mistake this season from a talent standpoint. And I'm the perpetrator of that. Okay?
Eduardo Rodriguez, do you still have the belief that he's going to be a good player because you've got him under contract for 3 more years?
I think in fairness, it's an unknown, but he spent 4 months on the disabled list or on the injury list to begin the season. Very unfortunate. Coming back that far into the season and being productive is very, very difficult. Well, look at what happened to Kelly. He started out the season great. He went on the injured list, was on it for 3 or 4 months, and he semi-struggled after he came back. And he's been a great Diamondback pitcher.
Right.
So, the season was built around a pitching staff that on paper was maybe as good as we've had in many years, but in reality, an enormous amount was lost to injury list. Gallen was on the injury list. Nelson was on the injury list. The 2 guys we already spoke about were on the injury list for 2/3 of the season. So, I'm not trying. Losers make excuses, and I don't want to be that.
Yeah,
I want to analyze what worked. I want to analyze, and Mike will do this, and all the rest of us, what didn't work. And in that category where performance was not what we want, I would expect there will be some changes made.
There will be some increases from guys that are on salary now. Carroll's number is going to go up. So will Goriel, Marte, Erod. Their contracts will all go up. I want to ask you about two things. The free agency of Christian Walker. And do you think that you guys will be able to keep Christian Walker and Zach Gallen entering the final year? Do you try to get a long-term deal done with Gallen, or do you play it out?
Points are legitimate, worthy of discussion, more discussion to come. But what we always do, and I know you know this, about a week or 10 days after we play our last game, the Brain Trust Mike and his guys will work on their thoughts about what to do in the off season. Derek and I will join with them. Tori joins in the meeting, and the leadership in the baseball front office, and the rest of us discuss each and every player, discuss where we want to go with each and every person on the team, and those are decisions that are important ones to be made. Now, I don't want to prejudge what we will do.
Well, we're all bummed. We are, but this team brought us a lot of enjoyment this year. It really did. Some heartache at the end, but man, it was fun to watch this team last year, and even this year too. It brought us a lot of great moments. So, thank you for coming on.
Again, thank you for following the team as closely as you do. But again, many, many, many thanks to our great fans. And you showed you love us. We love you. We're gonna invest in this team, and I'm very hopeful that next year, we're going to be back in the postseason. We did end up, with the same record as the Mets and the Braves, and we lost those tiebreakers. I think we have the 7th or 8th best record in baseball, and last year we weren't even close to that.
Yeah.
And we lucked out and got in. And then once you're in, you know what can happen. So I'm not bummed out about it. At the end of the day, I'm not discouraged. I'm momentarily down because I had hoped and I had wanted us to be there, and we're good enough to go and be very competitive, and because we know we can be, because we've done it. So anyway, thanks for the time, guys, and
Ken, we
I guess
appreciate
more
it.
to come.
Always the best. Thank you, Ken.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Very much.
All right, welcome.
Ken
Bye.
Kendrick, managing general partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, our guest here on the Burns Gambo Show.
Thanks for watching Burns Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.